Purposeful people, I am LaShawn Spry, affectionately known as your purpose pusher. In 2012, I realized that I have a passion for women and seeing them fulfill their purpose. And because of this, I knew it was something I had to do to incorporate that into my life. So 2013, I became a certified life coach and I began to push people to their purpose. I realized that God gave me a gift to be able to pull out purpose in His people. I knew I wanted to create a platform where purpose-driven women could be encouraged, inspired, and empowered. So out of that desire, birth Purposeful Living with LaShawn Spry. Vibe with me. I'll change your life. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Purposeful Living with LaShawn Spry. I am your host, LaShawn Spry, and this is an interactive Facebook Live show. So I need you all to communicate with us. I need you to join in the conversation. Type in your comments, type in your questions, and we'll respond to you because I want to be an encouragement to you all, an inspiration. I want you all to live your very best lives in every area of your lives. So listen, I have a bomb guest on tonight. We're going to try to contain this energy that is going on in this room right now. But this is my guest, Stephanie Stanford. I'm so excited for us to talk to her on tonight. I'm going to let her introduce herself to you all, and then we'll go into the conversation because we have so much to talk about, and 30 minutes goes by so fast. So, Stephanie.
First of all, I just need y'all to know we have been cackling for the last 15 minutes, just trying to keep it a little bit under control. I hope you're ready for the glitter, the glam, the over the top, because I have a feeling this is going to be all that. So,
yeah, man.
Yeah, she said introduce myself. Even now I'm trying to control myself just a little. But I'm Stephanie Stanford, and I'm a spiritual life coach. That sounds all fancy. It's not. It just means, really, I stand right here, God on one side, you on the other side. I connect y'all. And once you're connected, I kind of step back. Because with that, anything can happen. Yeah. But we're going to get into the good stuff, though. I think today we're going to have some fun.
Listen, okay, before we get into the heavy stuff, did you see Black Panther?
I did see the movie.
You did?
I did.
Okay, how did you feel?
Well, first of all, I saw the movie with my husband, who is a man and he's Caribbean, so I'm all up in my feelings. Oh my God, are you seeing this right now? Look, but the women are the fighters. Oh my God. He was looking at me like this. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So he was enjoying it, but I have to go back and see the movie again by myself because I thought it was phenomenal.
I said
what
the
did
exact
you
same thing. I went with my husband.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was on overload emotionally. I was on overload visually.
Yes.
It was absolutely beautiful.
It was.
I didn't want to cry, like my eyes welled up a few times, if I just be honest. But because I was with him, I cried. Mm-hmm. But I definitely left saying, I have to come back here. Yeah. I have to come with my girlfriends. Like, we have to be able to act up and, you know, talk during the movie and slap high five like, girl, did you see her? And yeah, I have to see it again. The movie has made $700 million worldwide. Only the second week. It is, and it's not hype. Like, you know, sometimes you get the hype going. Sometimes, no. It's an amazing movie.
What surprises?
And
I can tell you.
Several surprises. Yeah, but we're not gonna spoil it, you know,
Right.
just in case someone hasn't seen it. What do y'all think? What did y'all think of the movie? I want to see your comments. What did you love most about the movie? I think for me it was the cinematography, the visual, the colors. It was so beautiful.
I felt like I was going into coming to America.
Yes.
It feels like step 2 of that. I felt like I was in it. For me, seeing the women who were the warriors, the women were the main protectors and guardians. That, wow.
And,
I felt like fire.
Their passion and their loyalty to home, like at all costs. Okay, we telling too much, but it was fun. I just had to hear another opinion. It was amazing, and I want to go back. I want to see it again. But Let me introduce my guest. Let me read her bio. This is Coach Stephanie Stanford. She is a spiritual life coach, as she's already told you. She is full of sass and sparkle, that is not an exaggeration, who believes that learning has to be fun. She might incorporate Wu-Tang wisdom with some soca dance moves to engage and educate audiences. Think life strategist who reaches into our soul to get your best plan. Her tools, engaging and simple, but they can create change in every area of your life. Listen, on her Facebook page, she says, I love dogs, I love soca music, I'm a bad coach. And you know, this is what I love. She's already explained she is that medium. She's that middle person between you and God. And we know that our relationship with God is a priority. So she is that person that you go to when you're trying to figure that out, when you're trying to build that, when you're trying to get that solid foundation of love in your life. And we know God is love. If that is what you are trying to do, Coach Stephanie is your welcome.
I want LaShawn to do my commercials every day, y'all. I just want her to be in my house.
Listen,
I wish she'd wake me up in the morning.
Small fee, but listen.
I want her to wake me up in the morning. Good morning, Stephanie Stanford. That was amazing.
Hey, and throwing glitter.
Oh my God.
Okay,
I would love
back to the show.
Sorry.
Listen, my first question for all of my guests. Tell me in your own words, what is purpose to you?
Ooh, what is purpose? Purpose is the thing that you agreed before you got to this earth that you and God would do together. And I feel like there are certain people that up in heaven you connected with and you said, we're going to hang out at this point in your life. I'm going to talk to you. You're going to talk to me. We're going to work it out together. So purpose for me is just what you and God agreed upon before you got here. And it's the thing that gives you life. When you're here and you're living in your purpose and you're doing your purpose, it feels like you could do it for hours. It just feels like excitement. So it's what you're supposed to be doing. I also want to say, though, LaShawn, it's very important to me. Purpose doesn't have to be you're on a stage, you're writing books. I truly, truly have met people, I'm sure you have too, who you feel like their purpose is just helping kids in their neighborhood.
That's right.
My mom was that kind of lady. She could just see kids that were hungry. She didn't say, hey, I can tell you're hungry, you don't have no food. But she somehow invited these kids into our home for breakfast and made them feel like it wasn't any big deal. I just had some extra. That's to me a life purpose. So that's the answer.
I love it. I love it. It is your reason, the reason that you agree, or the thing that you agreed to do, you and God, before you even get here.
That's
and
right.
I love it because we know the Bible says, before you were even formed in your mother's womb, I knew you and I called you to be this.
I have
like
goosebumps.
He created you to be something before you even knew who you were.
Yep.
So I love that explanation. I love that definition.
It's true.
Now, tell me, we talk about different principles. I love principles, and I wrote an ebook, 10 Principles to Becoming a Purpose-Driven Woman. So tonight's principle is process.
Process.
Yes. So I want to talk about process and how that aligns with our purpose.
Wow, y'all, she went right into the series, didn't she? I hope y'all are listening because you need a process. So the question is then, how do I incorporate process into my own life and moving it forward? That's amazing, because I guess I'll tell a brief story about that.
Yes.
And that is that in 2008, a lot of people know I left corporate America, and I was making a lot of money for somebody else in marketing, and they were doing great. And I said, well, I could do this for myself. So I left corporate and started a little company, and it failed. Totally failed. The economy was poor. I wasn't a good salesperson. There were a lot of things I didn't know, and I should have done some research on. And so I got out there and realized that I had been a failure. For me, failure is probably the hardest thing I've ever faced, because I've been a success at a lot of things and it seemed to come easy. So that first big fall on your face is hard. So getting to your question, I said, how am I going to dig myself out of this hole? So I started doing all this spiritual work, self-development work, and that was awesome.
Yeah.
I learned to meditate, and I read books, and took time for self, and did a lot. I started feeling amazing on the inside, but I was like, okay, I'm visualizing. Okay, God, send me $1 million contracts. I can see them, but I'm in my living room not making any phone calls. So what I learned is that whole spirit side, you have to do that. That's your foundation. But I wasn't doing any process work. So The process is you have to do practical things to get your butt up and get out there and do the work.
Faith without works
Is dead.
dead. You were believing him for it, and you utilized the tools to get you out of that funk of the failure. So that's a good lesson in itself. Our perception of failure is so important to our recovery from it, because if we see it as the end all be all or the final destination, you'll never pick yourself up and move forward. So the beauty of that is you picked yourself up, you moved forward, you started that process, and now here we are realizing, okay, I've done that part, I have the spiritual basis, but now you have to do the work. So.
And you know what? The process for me is actually baby steps, because I'm a girl that can get overwhelmed very easily.
Okay.
Yeah.
Listen, ladies, overwhelmed very easily. Those purpose-driven women who get overwhelmed very easily, there is nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
Some of us process situations and information differently, so it's okay to take those small steps.
I love that you said that. I love it. Don't y'all love she brought that out? I do, because that's serious. No, that's kind of been my life, though. If somebody says, okay, I need you to write an ebook, I need you to create your whole new brand, that's overwhelming to me. Yeah. If somebody says, break that down into little baby steps, those are overwhelming, let's break that down some more.
Okay.
We just keep getting smaller and smaller until it's not overwhelming anymore.
So what did your steps look like?
To start, to get out of failure?
Yes.
Ooh, my very first step was to identify what I really wanted.
Nice.
And you know what? People say that all the time, but I mean, to be honest about it, though,
Yeah.
because what's interesting is after falling down, I felt I didn't want to reach so high anymore. So I was willing to reach right here.
That fear of falling again.
That's it. That I would never do it correctly or do it well. So I had to be honest. So what my number one step of process was I truly had a talk with God and said, between me and you privately, this is what I really want. And I wrote down everything. I wrote down trips I wanted to take. I wrote down lifestyle I wanted to have.
Yeah.
I wrote that I wanted to be married, because at the time my boyfriend of 8 years wasn't proposing, y'all. That's a different story. He did propose eventually, but anyway. So I wrote everything down.
Yeah.
And then I said, okay, now what next? I listened. Is actually my step 2 in the process, because I need God to tell me where to start.
So step 1 was honesty with what you wanted.
Exactly.
Step 2 was listening.
Listen, because I know you know this already, but God will give you some action steps.
Yeah, man.
You have to sort of know how to ask, because I learned you can say, Lord, I just want to feel better. Tell me I'm doing the right thing. Am I on the right path? That's great. We all want to know we're on the right path. But I want to know, should I start with my social media, or should I start with my direct sales, or should I start by writing a book? God will tell you.
Your specified steps.
Yeah.
And you have to be, I love what you said, you have to ask the right questions. We have to be intentional about what we ask God. We have to be strategic about what we ask God, because He is an intentional, strategic God. So if you ask Him, what is the next step? What is it that you want me to do? He is faithful and just to reveal it to you.
I love you said that, but what's the second part of asking, though? You and I are sitting here having a conversation. If I'm doing all the talking,
and never listen.
never.
Yeah.
See, she said it. Y'all don't need to be talking. You just need to listen to the show. No, but that's huge.
Yeah.
Wasn't that a big learning for you? It was for me.
Which was hard. And
Yeah.
for me, when God spoke, I wasn't always ready for what He said. So that was another lesson for me. Like, you have to be ready. You know, has anyone been there, ladies? I want your comments, your experiences. Have you been there when you are listening, but when He tells you what the next step is, when it comes time for us to be obedient, and I don't want to jump ahead of the game to step number 3, but when it comes time for you to be obedient, and it comes time for you to respond to what God has told you, that's difficult sometimes.
It's very scary. But you know what? I just think God is my homie. And that's why I'm here, I think, because Sean's very chill.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, God is my homie, and you know, all that. So I have cool conversations like, Lord, this is lit up in here. What? Sometimes when I'm on walks, I say, yo, that tree is hot. You did good, son. I really do. That's how I talk to God. That's what we do. So, so I actually have talked to God like, okay, Lord, I think I heard that this is the step you want me to take. Yeah. I'm scared. I'm scared of that.
Yeah, man.
So help me be comfortable with it.
Yes.
But that goes back to the overwhelm thing. If it feels like too much, be real and say, God, I'm just too afraid to do that right now. Can you help me either not be afraid, or give me some encouragement, or break it down some more? Yeah, it's that conversation you have.
Yeah, man. Which goes, again, to the relationship. that relationship with God is so important. When we're in a certain structure, I know you said you were raised in church, so for us being raised in church, the structure that we were given or the instructions that we were given, sometimes we feel like we have to come to God a certain way. We have to speak a certain way. We have to. It was liberating for me to realize it is a relationship just like any other relationship. He already knows who I am. He already knows how I speak. He already knows how I feel because he's already looking in my heart. Yeah. So I'm going to be honest with him. Bruh, this is scary. I'm not going to let the fear, dictate what I do and don't do, but the fear is there. So it makes you feel so much better when you pour it all out to him and lay it all out there. I'm scared, but I have more of a desire to be obedient to you than I do to lean into my fears.
Yeah.
So
that's huge.
I think that's beautiful. So you talk to God. You had this conversation with him. You told him what you wanted. You listened to him. What was the next step? Like,
the next
what
step
did God tell you?
Get your butt on up and start doing some things. So one thing I've always wanted to do. So I had this big failure, this big fall, and I wanted to, so let me take a little step back. During this time of failure, understand I went from being a corporate chick, 2 college degrees, earning just under 6 figures, to my boyfriend having to take care of me financially. I lost everything. My savings, I went into debt. That felt like crap. That's emotionally incredibly hard on your soul.
Yeah, man.
So digging myself out. What did I do after the asking? Well, then I had to say, all right, Lord, something's in my heart that I think I want to do to dig myself out is to write a book. Even that felt overwhelming, writing a book, because I was looking for a job and all these other things. Yeah, at the end, I don't know how to publish a book. I don't know, my brain was already on step 37 when we were on 1, which God helped me see that too. So, ironically, I just asked God for help, right? And what's funny is coincidences are God talking to you, truly. So I was someplace, I went to some women's event, and I heard a pastor, a female pastor, say, God told her, whatever your task is, if you'll just do it 20 minutes, 5 days a week, you'll get it done. I said, okay, God, I feel like I'm hearing this from you. I can do that. I can take 20 minutes a day and just write something 5 days a week.
So that was him. He's so faithful. That was him responding to, I don't want you to be overwhelmed with this. Just take these small steps, and I'm going to bless these small steps.
That's
I
it.
love it.
And you know what? I want to be very real, though. There were days I'm sitting there in my 20 minutes like, Lord,
And you don't
I don't hear you right now. It ain't really nothing. Ain't nothing to be said right now, Lord, But I think the point was that I just, as you said, I continued to show that I was trying and working and willing. And can I just skip ahead a little bit?
Of course.
Because now I'm going to say this. I've learned what's going on inside your head is just as important as what's going on physically and practically. It's actually part of my process to be aware of what's going on inside here. So now, if I feel afraid, I often take a step back and I breathe and I just say, God, yes. Yes. My answer to you is yes. And I just breathe. And I remind myself that if I had said yes to God, everything else is going to flow. So even if this moment doesn't feel perfect, this is all flowing towards the correct ending. I'm okay. So yes is a big deal. I say it to myself a lot in my head.
Yes.
It's part of my process now.
So that's your surrender. When you feel the fear, instead of you retreating, you lean into it with a surrender to God. I stop. Like reminding. Okay.
No, you're right. You got it. You got it. I have to, it's just for me, I have to stop.
Yes.
And breathe.
Yes.
I've learned that we all have earth, air, fire, and water inside of us, right? We all have these components. We need them all to stay alive. But if you think about those things that you need in your body, you can only stay alive for a couple minutes without your breath.
Right.
So to me, that's my connection tool to God all the time, reminding me that I'm here and I'm supposed to be here. So when I feel this overwhelmed, this fear, I stop. I take some deep, relaxing breaths, and I remind myself I am connecting to God right now, just in my breath.
So that's your relinquishing control back to God.
That's it. That's my sort of trigger to say, get back to God and give permission again for God to run this thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. So that is.
You have a question.
I do have a question. Yay!
We like questions.
Yes. So Bible Spry asks, how do you maintain your focus throughout the process.
Okay. How do we make, would you like to answer that
I
first?
was deep.
First of all, hey baby, thank you for tuning in. Okay, now, how do we maintain our focus while in the process? Tonight's conversation, just in case you're just tuning in, we're talking about purpose and process and how do they align? How do we function in the process to purpose, or even once you know what purpose is, once you know what it is that you and God agreed upon at your conception, how do you function in that process? So his question was, how do you stay focused? I'm going to let you answer.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I'm actually really glad you asked this question, because I'm just going to tell the truth. I'm not the chick that's like, I'm so focused, I'm so connected, I'm totally in my bliss. That's not my life. I have a husband. I used to have a Rottweiler and 2 cats. I have a stepdaughter. I work full time in my job plus coaching.
Amen.
My life's kind of crazy, and I would bet that LaShawn Spry's life is kind of
a lot
crazy.
going
Probably
on.
your life is crazy. A lot going
That's a
on.
lot going on.
So if you got a lot going on,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm not sitting around this perfectly focused. So for me, it's waking up in the morning. I do a couple of things. One, I know before I open my eyes that I'm not going to get everything accomplished. That's not a pessimistic way of looking at it. It's just being honest with myself, because I have a list of 4,000 things and only got 24 hours. I could probably get 3,000 done, but not 4. So just being okay with that. Being okay with that. I'm constantly saying, this week, my body is my priority. Next week, my business is my priority. The next week, I realize my house is falling apart a little bit. So the house needs to be my priority. Wearing swimsuits instead of underwear. I don't know. My house has to be a priority. I shift my priorities around from week to week. There are some that always stay near the top, but I shift them around. And finally, the last thing I do is I wake up in the morning and say, God, please help me prioritize this day.
Yeah.
It's literally one of the first things I think about before I get out of bed. And I let God start telling me, Steph, today you're not going to have a lot of time in the morning. Today I want you to spend 15 minutes on this. You're not going to exercise. And God tells me, you're not working out today, and that's important to me.
And that's because you're open to him telling you.
I'm willing.
Like, that's-
Yeah.
And that's so important. Like, you have to, if you want God to speak to you, he will speak. If you want him to order your steps, he will do that. But you have to be in tune. The ears of your heart have to be open to hear him. Like, when you take that pause and you breathe in, you're stilling yourself so you can hear him. I'm waiting for you to speak, God. I'm not doing anything under my own power. I love that. I love that. And that's important for somebody to hear. Some of us are moving so fast and doing so much, and you're not being still enough to even hear God. So that's you. That's how you maintain your focus.
Can I ask you a question? Because
Absolutely.
because I want to know, and because they probably want to know too. I know how I started hearing God and the things I do to hear God, but I don't think everybody knows that. And I'm always learning new ways. So I just want to know, how did you learn to hear God, or how do you hear God?
My process was, it's so funny. I always say, my husband and I have this joke that I went from the club to the church. Like, literally, I went from the club that night, got home 5 o'clock. I promise you, it was a Saturday night, November 2007. I went to the club Saturday night. I went to bed like I had been invited to church, and I was so tired of the lifestyle that I was living. So I'm like, okay, if I wake up for church, I'll go. I promise you, 9 o'clock, my eyes popped open like I had slept all night. So I went to church, and that morning, the spirit was so palpable that the preacher didn't even preach. Like, I was just laid out before God. And what I realized in my process is that my relationship with God, me talking to him and hearing from him, was the foundation of everything that he would do in my life. So I had to yield to the process. I had to yield to building relationship with him. I had to get in a still, quiet place and talk to him. Sometimes it was through a song. I had to realize that God speaks through everything. He speaks through music. He speaks through the wind, just being outside in nature, and sometimes just the still of being outside, you can hear him so clearly. He speaks through a sermon. He speaks through a Facebook post. He speaks through the people, the divine connections that he brings into your life. I just had to learn to recognize that it was him. I could ask God a question in my prayer time and wait quietly to hear from him, and I wouldn't hear an answer. But then I would go about my day, and I could have the radio on, and I promise you, it felt like God talking directly to me through the person on the radio. And sometimes you're just laying quiet. Like sometimes in my most waited moments, I could be laying down quietly, in my room. That's my favorite place in the world. And I could be laying down quietly, and tears could be flowing, and I could be crying out to him saying, I just don't know what to do with all this. And it's in those moments that I could hear his voice. It would feel like he was right there with me, giving me the answers, comforting me, giving me peace in that very moment. So for me, learning to hear from God, I had to be intentional about spending that one-on-one time with him, reading his word, getting to know how he speaks, getting to know how he spoke to his people in biblical days, and then believing and having faith that he too wanted to speak to me even right now. So that's what it was for me.
Isn't that beautiful? Didn't
That's
you want to hear
process.
that? I mean, I wanted to hear that. That's phenomenal. We were saying before we joined y'all that we're psychic twins on the inside. This is me, okay? This is outside personification.
I'm actually a blonde. Listen, we have a few more minutes. I want you to tell everybody how to reach you, your website, your social media, so that they can contact you after this.
Here's my social security number. No, I'm just
Absolutely
kidding. No. I ain't getting that.
Just kidding. We'll get that later.
No, we won't. You see her? My website is Steph Stanford, STEPH, Stanford.com. That's easy. And you can find me on Facebook, Stephanie Stanford. You can find me on Instagram, the Steph Stanford. So it's all pretty easy, so you'll see my name. But I would love to hear from you. I appreciate being here. I just want to hear your comments and thoughts. Yeah. Look at this vibe. We're very real chicks.
Yeah, man. Listen, this has been a dope show. I thank you all for tuning in. Y'all know we have so much coming up. I have my swag conference, which I am excited about. Sisters Willfully Aspiring God's Glory. That's going to be April 26th and 27th. It's a Thursday and Friday night. I'll have a guest speaker. I don't want to announce her yet, but I'm excited about her. I will be speaking myself on Thursday night, so I hope you all can join us. It will be at the Purpose Church. All of the information is everywhere. It's on a flyer everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, everywhere. Website, all of that. I also have my new ebook, which I'm excited about. Listen, it took a lot for me to birth this. So I want y'all to go ahead and spend that $199. It's 10 principles to becoming a purpose-driven woman. These are principles that I had to apply in my own life, and they worked for me, and I want to share them. I was led to share them with you all. So 10 principles to becoming a purpose-driven woman. You can find that on my website. I have t-shirts on my website, child, all that good stuff. Just, And next week, I have a bomb guest again, Miss Sherilyn Davis. She is the founder of the Girl Professionals Network. So she'll be coming in and talking about what she's doing now, and we'll be talking about another purposeful principle next week. So this was a bomb show. I don't know if y'all can feel the energy through the camera, but I am so grateful that you came on today. I'm so grateful that you said yes. I know that God spoke to somebody out there, because the energy here was crazy before we even got on. And what I want to say to you all about the purposeful principle tonight, process. Listen, even once we realize and we come to grips with the fact that God has called each one of us for a specific purpose and plan. He created that plan before you were even born. There is still a process, a step-by-step process that we have to live out. There are highs and lows to that process. There will be tears in that process. There will be difficult moments in that process. But the process leads you to the woman that you are supposed to be. The process will lead you to the connections that you are supposed to make. The process has a beautiful destiny for your life. Do not give up in the process. Be encouraged. I love y'all so much. Thank you for vibing with me. Listen, vibe with me. I'll change your life. Vibe with me. I'll change your life. Mwah! Love y'all.